Welcome to today's lesson, Dividing with Powers of 10. Today we are going to practice using a place value chart and some other methods so that you can practice dividing by tens, hundreds, and even thousands. Let's go ahead and get started. We are going to begin today by looking at the place value chart seen below. We have our ones place, tens place, hundreds, thousands, and 10,000s. These are all powers of 10. Now we're going to start by placing a 2 in our ones place. Every time you move a digit one place value to the left, you're going to be increasing its value times 10. So let's take our 2 and let's move it over to the tens place. And now this has a value of 10 times as much as it had before. So 2 times 10 equals 20. Now, if we were to move this one more place value again to the hundreds place, our 20 would now have a value 10 times greater than it had before with 200. So every time we move one place value to the left on our place value chart, we're increasing the value of the number times 10. But remember, today we're working with division, and division is the opposite of multiplication. That means every time we move a number to the right of a place value chart, we are dividing its value by 10. Let's look at an example. We are going to start by using the number 200. We are going to divide 200 by 10. That means that we are going to be shifting our 2 one place value over to the right. So let's see what that would look like. So we now shifted our 2 from our hundreds place to our tens place, and that gave us a value of 20. Well, that seemed pretty simple using a place value chart, but what can you do if you don't have a place value chart? First, identify if you have matching zeros at the end of each number. For example, 10 has 1 0, and 200 also ends in a 0. If both numbers end in a 0 when you're dividing them, you can cross out your zeros, and it's just like dividing 20 divided by 1. Let's go ahead and try another example together. We are going to try to divide 2,000 divided by 100. Those are some really big numbers. Let's see if we can use our trick. We know that 100 has 2 zeros. 2,000 also has at least 2 zeros. So we can cross out 2 of our zeros in each number. 20 divided by 1 equals 20. That's great! Let's see if it works on our place value chart. All right, I have 2,000 represented on my place value chart. I know I need to move it over 2 place values, so I'm going to move my 2 over once, and then I'm going to move my 2 over twice. That means that I should have a value of 20. So 2,000 divided by 100 equals 20. Let's run through some practice problems together. What is 3,020 divided by 10? Well, look, 10 has 1 0, and 3,020 also ends in 1 0. So if we cross out those zeros, we need to divide 302 divided by 1. And any number divided by 1 will be the number itself, 302. That was pretty simple. Let's try another. What is 3,500 divided by 700? This problem looks really tricky. Let's start by identifying our zeros. 700 has 2 zeros, and 3,500 also has 2 zeros. So we can cross out 2 zeros in each of our numbers. Now, what's 35 divided by 7? 35 divided by 7 equals 5. That seemed like a pretty tricky problem, but once you identify your zeros, it's pretty simple. Are you ready for another problem? Let's try our next practice problem together. 6,300 divided by 9. Uh-oh. What do we do if both numbers do not have a 0? Well, think about our place value chart. 6,300 ends in 2 zeros, which means that it is 63 times 100. So we're going to start by dividing 63 by 9. 63 divided by 9 equals 7. And then we have to multiply that 7 times 100 because 6,300 has 2 zeros. That gives us a value of 700. 6,300 divided by 9 equals 700. Let's try a word problem together. Desi's school has 1,500 students. The students are split into teams of 30 for field day. How many teams will there be for field day? Well, we know we're starting with 1,500 students that we will be dividing equally into teams of 30 students each. So let's see how many teams we're going to have. To start, we can see that we have 1 0 with 30, but we have 2 zeros with 1,500. Since 30 only has 1 0, we can only underline 1 0 for 1,500. So I'm going to cross off those zeros, and now we have to divide 150 divided by 3. That can still be difficult to do in our heads. So we know that 150 is 15 times 10 because 10 has 1 0 and 150 has 1 0. So what is 15 divided by 3? 15 divided by 3 equals 5. Now all we have to do is multiply that 5 times the 10, which is represented with that 0, and that gives us a value of 50. That means there are going to be 50 different teams for field day. Let's review what you've learned in today's lesson. When you're trying to divide using powers of 10, you first need to identify the zeros that are in the number. Since 10 has 1 0 and 1,250 has 1 0, we can cross off both of those and then divide 125 by 1. That gives us a quotient of 125. It won't always be that simple though, because you won't always have a 0 at the end. If you don't have a 0 at the end, you need to break apart your first number. We know that 2,400 is equivalent to 24 times 100, because 2,400 has 2 zeros, and 100 also has 2 zeros. So now we can take the beginning of that number, 24, and divide it by 12. 24 divided by 12 equals 2. My last step is to then multiply the first part of my quotient, which is a 2, by 100, because we can't forget that 2,400 had 2 zeros. So we add those 2 zeros on to our 2, and we get a quotient of 200. 2,400 divided by 12 equals 200.